This is Tooling Around. I'm today's host, Jess, with my co-host, Kyle. Today we have Jamison from Rogue Engineer. Jamison, thank you so much for joining us.
Glad to be here.
We now know you as Rogue Engineer. Can you tell me a little bit about your site and how it came to be?
So it all started when we moved into a larger house. We needed a bunch of furniture to fill out that house, but we just made it was one of the biggest purchases of our life.
Right.
It was the biggest purchase of our life. So we wanted to fill out that house with furniture, but we wanted to do it on a budget. And we did that by just building our own furniture. I was never really very good at building things to begin with, but I kind of used my design expertise, you know, the knowledge that I picked up through the engineering world to lay out a plan to build furniture, my own furniture, and you know, it came together pretty good, surprisingly enough.
What's one of your favorite projects that you've done?
My favorite projects to build are the ones that get used the most. One project that we did was a coffee table. I designed a coffee table that looked rustic so that the kids could just beat it up and it didn't matter.
Yeah.
It didn't need to protect it at all. But it's got two big, really big drawers below it. Mm-hmm. One houses all the toys for the kids.
Oh, perfect.
And the other houses all of our blankets.
That's
so
perfect.
At night when the kids are done, they're putting their toys away in that bin.
Yeah.
And so that, I mean, that's one of the projects that gets used all the time.
Right.
Another project that I really enjoyed was one that I just made recently, which was a makeup vanity for our little girl, Madison.
Yeah.
She can sit at that vanity and like put her makeup on, or, you know, whatever she does, she loves that thing.
Yeah.
She can sit there and look at herself in the mirror, but just to see the pure joy on her face and to walk into a room when nobody's there and to see her just sitting up there, just doing what she
in
does.
her element.
She just loves it. So that is cool, just to see building stuff for the kids. I've always liked that, and just stuff that gets used.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Jamison, with that, I think we've had enough conversation. How about let's get our hands dirty and do a build?
Yeah.
I understand you brought something for us today.
Yeah, so there's, you've probably seen a floating shelf floating around on the web.
Right.
But I've got a little secret in mind.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I know everybody watching is looking forward to it. So let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get right into that build and find out what's behind your shelf. And welcome back to Tooling Around. I'm Jess, your host. And today we have Jamison from Rogue Engineer. And I am super excited about, earlier we were talking about this floating shelf that you had, but you told me there was a little more to it.
Absolutely.
So how about we go ahead and reveal that before we get into the project?
So this floating shelf is a little bit different from what you see floating around the web. I've got a little secret, and it is actually some hidden storage.
Fantastic.
So the cool thing about this is you store your, what you want to see on top of the shelf, just like any other floating shelf, but you want to hide some stuff. You've got some valuables, and the best place to hide those are in plain sight.
Awesome.
Right? So who's going to think to look inside of a floating shelf that's sitting in your living room?
Nice, hidden right there to where you can get to it.
That's
I
right.
love that. Awesome. How about let's talk about the project itself. So we've gone ahead and kind of assembled some of the stuff here. So if you want to talk about some of those steps before we start.
Sure. Okay, so the construction of this shelf is going to be a two-part design. There's a top, which is down here. This is clamped to the work surface, and this is the top.
So that's kind of our mantle.
Exactly.
Right?
And then this is the false bottom.
Okay.
And that is going to be attached to the top with a continuous hinge, or what a lot of people call a piano hinge.
Great.
This is all joined together with pocket hole joinery.
Okay.
But there's many different methods of joinery, biscuits and wood glue, dowel pins. There's a lot of different ways that you can join this together.
Great.
Pocket holes are just simple and easy, so that's how I did it.
Okay, awesome. How about we start putting on the hinge here?
Okay, so we've already gone ahead and pre-drilled for this continuous hinge. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch my drill to drive.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna grab a couple of these screws that came with the continuous hinge, and we'll just go ahead and get this started.
And you were talking about, Jamison, why we use the continuous hinge here.
Yeah, the continuous hinge is used because it's an even distribution across the entire shelf, and it just gives you a nice strong connection. You're not going to have any wobbly issues or anything like that.
Great.
Okay, so our continuous hinge is attached, and now we've got to add a friction hinge and that's going to allow this the bottom part to rotate upwards and then stay in place.
Okay, great. And friction, tell me a little bit about why you chose this hinge.
Sure. So the friction hinge, I chose it for one because it's cheap. They're only a couple bucks a piece, I think, not even. The friction hinge is basically determined by this screw right here. So as you tighten this screw, it's going to increase the friction and therefore make it tougher for this thing to slide within that track.
Okay, great.
So once we get it all assembled, we would have to unclamp this and rotate it back over in order to mount this. On Ryobi Nation, you'll be able to find the full plans on how to and where to locate this hinge on the top and the bottom.
Great. So once you apply that, you basically have the project all done?
Yeah, well, and then you set the friction right so that it's going to hold your shelf in place. But yeah, I mean, as far as that, you can finish it to your liking, to fit your home style or so on and so forth. But yeah, other than that, it's pretty much done.
And then as far as mounting this on the wall, we were talking earlier and you were mentioning to me how important it is to find those studs in the wall. And thankfully, our friends at Ryobi have this brand new stud finder, and they call it a whole stud detector.
Okay.
And the idea here is we're able to find the complete stud, know exactly where the center of it is. We can go ahead and mark it with the indicator right here, and then we're able to mount and know that we are right on the center of the stud. Our screws aren't falling off the side.
Exactly.
Make sure when we get home, this thing's still hanging up when we start setting items on top.
Absolutely. So you want to locate two studs, and then you're going to want to drive in two screws, one right above the other, through this board right here and into the wall and into the stud. Those 2 points of contact, the upper and the lower, will help reduce the moment arm about this this shelf. So as you add weight to the shelf, it's going to want to cause this shelf to pivot. If you've just got one screw, the bottom of this shelf is actually going to be pushed into your drywall and could damage your wall.
Okay.
So by adding those 2 points of contact, it helps reduce that.
Awesome. And if somebody wants to see the complete plans, they can go on Ryobi Nation and check it out. Everything's listed right there for you. Walks you through the steps, walks you through the materials you need so you can do it yourself. I think I'm probably going to be busy this weekend once my wife sees this. I imagine this will be in our home before you know it. So if you want to find out more of your designs, where can people go for that?
They can go to rogueengineer.com. I've got tons of designs there, over a couple hundred designs actually by now.
And like we spoke earlier, Jamison does a great job of laying out how to do those things. Use that aerospace engineering to really great use on that site. So thank you everyone who's tuned in. Thank you Jamison for joining us. Join us next time on Tooling Around.